This is Narendra Kumar from NRK Academy, and this is 7th A of SSC AP State Board and 10th class. And we're going to do a very good story today, a very wonderful story, written by our past President of India, APJ Abdul Kalam. And this story's name is My Childhood. So he narrates this wonderful incident from his childhood. Let's go to the story directly without speaking anything about it, because otherwise the suspense will be gone. And we'll start the story. I was born into a middle-class Tamil family in the island town of Rameshwaram in the erstwhile means before, Madras state. My father, Jainul Abdin, had neither much formal education nor much wealth. So his father had neither education nor wealth. Despite these disadvantages, he possessed great innate wisdom. Innate wisdom. Inside. Innate means born with. Wisdom and a true generosity of spirit. So his father was an extraordinary man, according to Mr. Kalam, and he possessed great innate wisdom. I-N-N-A-T-E, which means born with, within. Innate means within. Wisdom and a true generosity of spirit. He had an ideal helpmate in my mother, Ashiamma. I do not recall the exact number of people she fed every day. Every day she fed people. But I'm quite certain that far more outsiders ate with us than all the members of our family put together. This is such a wonderful fact. Anybody who came to her house, she served them. And she ended up serving more people than total number of the family members. I was one of the children, a short boy, with rather undistinguished looks, born to tall and handsome parents. So I was not very smart or handsome, he says himself. We lived in our ancestral home, which was built in the middle of the 19th century. It was a fairly large pakka house made of limestone and brick on the Mosque Street in Rameshwaram. My austere father, austere, A-U-S-T-E-R-E, which means, with very minimal spending. Austere father used to avoid all inessential comforts and luxuries. So obviously austere means you don't spend much in your luxuries. However, all necessities were provided for in terms of food, medicine or clothes. So, but for these two, they used to not spend much. In fact, I would say mine was a very secure childhood, both materially and emotionally. So, Kalam always felt very secure, emotionally, materially. The Second World War broke out in 1939 when I was 8 years old. For reasons I have never been able to understand, a sudden demand for tamarind seeds erupted in the market. I used to collect the seeds and sell them to provision shop on Mosque Street. A day's collections would fetch me the princely sum of 1 anna. My brother-in-law Jalaluddin would tell me stories about the war, which I would later attempt to trace in the headlines in Dinamani. Dinamani was a newspaper. Our area, being isolated, was completely unaffected by the war. But soon India was forced to join the Allied forces and something like a state of emergency was declared. So that time when India joined the war, the World War, emergency was declared. The first casualty means death, came in the form of the suspension, death or some destruction. The first casualty came in the form of the suspension of the train halt at Rameshwaram station. So there was a train halt, which means the train used to stop there, but that was removed. The train was continuing now without stopping. The newspapers now had to be bundled and thrown out from the moving train on the Rameshwaram road between Rameshwaram and Dhanuskodi. That forced my cousins Samsuddin, who distributed newspapers in Rameshwaram, to look for a helping hand to catch the bundles, and as if naturally, I filled a slot. So, because the train was not stopping, they were throwing the bundles of newspapers on the road, and his cousin and he had to pick them up. Samsuddin helped me earn my first wages. you're earning. Half a century later, I can still feel the surge of pride in earning my own money for the first time. So, that feeling you get when you earn your own money is such a wonderful feeling. And he felt that and never forgot that feeling. Every child is born with some inherited characteristics into a specific socio-economic and emotional environment and trained in certain ways by figures of authority. So he says that everybody is born with something inherited, something which comes from the family, into a specific socio-economic, emotional environment and trained in certain ways by figures of authority. By figures of authority here means older people. I inherited honesty. Honesty. So he learned honesty from his parents and self-discipline from my father. From my mother, I inherited faith in goodness and deep kindness. And so did my three brothers and sisters. I had three close friends in my childhood. Ramanatha Shastri, Aravindan and Siva Prakasan. These were his three best friends. All these boys were from orthodox Hindu Brahmin families. So orthodox is very strict Hindu Brahmin families. As children, none of us ever felt any difference amongst ourselves because of our religious differences and upbringing. So these children never understood this difference in religion. In fact, Ramanatha Shastri was the son of Pakshi Lakshmana Shastri, the high priest of the Rameshwaram temple. So one of the children's father, the Ramanatha Shastri's father, was Pakshi Lakshmana Shastri, the high priest of the Rameshwaram temple. Later, he took over the priesthood of the Rameshwaram temple from his father. Aravindan went into the business of arranging transport for visiting pilgrims, and Shiva Prakashan became a catering contractor for the southern railways. So they went out like that in life. During the annual Sri Sita Rama Kalyanam ceremony, our family used to arrange boats with a special platform for carrying idols of the Lord from the temple to the marriage site situated in the middle of the pond called Ramatirtha, which was near our house. Events from the Ramayana and from the life of the prophet were the bedtime stories my mother and grandmother would tell the children in our family. One day when I was in 5th standard at the Rameshwaram Elementary School, a new teacher came to our class. So he's narrating a beautiful story now. I used to wear a cap which marked me as a Muslim. So Muslims wear a cap like this. So that marked me as a Muslim. And I always sat in the front row next to Ramanatha Shastri, who wore the sacred thread. The new teacher could not stomach, which means could not digest that fact, could not, stomach means digest, could not accept, could not stomach a Hindu priest's son sitting with a Muslim boy. Now, there started the conflict. The Hindu priest's son and the Muslim boy, he didn't want them to sit beside each other. In accordance with our social ranking, as the new teacher saw it, I was asked to go and sit on the back bench. I felt very sad. And so did Ramanatha Shastri. He looked utterly downcast. He became so sad. Downcast means very sad. As I shifted to my seat in the last row. The image of him weeping when I shifted to the last row, image of him weeping. Look at the children's sensitivity. He was weeping. He didn't want his friend to go and sit in the last row. He felt something was wrong. The image of him weeping when I shifted to the last row left a lasting impression on me. After school, we went home and told our respective parents about the incident. Lakshmana Shastri summoned the teacher and in our presence told the teacher that he should not spread the poison of social inequality and communal intolerance in the minds of innocent children. So that was a beautiful reaction. He bluntly asked the teacher to either apologize or quit the school, to get out of the school and the island. Not only did the teacher regret his behavior means, he felt bad about his behavior, but the strong sense of conviction Lakshmana Shastri conveyed ultimately reformed this young teacher. So Lakshmana Shastri said, don't bring in these divisions between religions. And that completely reformed, which means made him a good person, this young teacher. On the whole, the small society of Rameshwaram was very rigid in terms of segregation of different social groups. However, my science teacher, Siva Subramaniam Iyer, though an orthodox Brahmin, was with a very conservative wife, was something of a rebel. So his science teacher was a rebel. He did his best to break social barriers so that people from different backgrounds could mingle easily. He used hours with me and would say, Kalam, I want you to develop so that you are on par with the highly educated people of the big cities. So his science teacher was a wonderful man. What a wonderful teacher he was. One day he invited me to his house for a meal. His wife was horrified at the idea of a Muslim boy being invited to dine in a ritually pure kitchen. So, these Brahmins, they don't allow any other people to come into the kitchen. And she was also trained to believe that. She refused to serve me in her kitchen. Siva Subramaniam Iyer was not perturbed. He was not perturbed. He was not disturbed. Nor did he get angry with his wife, but instead served me with his own hands and sat down beside me to eat his meal. What a wonderful lesson for a young child. He served himself and he sat down beside Kalam. His wife watched us from behind the kitchen door. I wondered whether she had observed any difference in the way I ate rice, drank water, or cleaned the floor after the meal. When I was leaving his house, Siva Subramanian Iyer invited me to join him for dinner again the next weekend. Observing my hesitation, should I, he told not to get upset, saying, once you decide to change the system, such problems have to be confronted. So look at the daring of the teacher. He said, there will be problems. There will be people like that. But you have to be very strong. When I visited his house the next week, Siva Subramanian Iyer's wife took me inside her kitchen and served me food with her own hands. See, he managed to change his wife without any shouting, only by example and being very strong. And then the Second War was over, World War was over, and India's freedom was imminent, was sure to happen. Imminent means sure to happen. Indians will build their own India, declared Gandhiji. The whole country was filled with an unprecedented optimism. So what a feeling that was when India got freedom. Unprecedented, no precedents. Nothing like that had happened before. Unprecedented means nothing like that had happened before. Optimism. Optimism means everything is going to be good from now. I asked my father for permission to leave Rameshwaram and study at the district headquarters in Ramanathapuram. He told me, as if thinking aloud, Abul, I know you have to go away to grow. Does the seagull not fly across the sea, alone and without a nest? He quoted Khalil Gibran to my hesitant mother. Your children are not your children. It's a very beautiful quote. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. They come through you, but not from you. They're not part of you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. And that's how this lesson ends, by APJ Abdul Kalam. What a wonderful short story taken from Wings of Fire, which is in which he narrates all these stories. Now, one of the very beautiful lessons from this story is, if a child is given such experiences of equality, when the adults are wise, how wise the child becomes. See, Abdul Kalam in that sensitive age must have grasped so beautifully all the things that he was seeing. He saw his science teacher. Deep within he must have become a rebel. He saw the Lakshman Shastri's behavior. No, you should not bring about divisions. And he said, this is right, this is right. He felt secure because he got so much love from his mother. He was secure emotionally because his father was so noble and so generous and so wise. Abdul Kalam himself became all these things. The science teacher, the head of the priest, his friends, the equality, the fight, the acceptance of difficulties, all this made Abdul Kalam, and one day he became the President of India. Now this kind of growth is possible to a child. That is why school education is very important. That is what NRK Academy also believes. Thank you so much. This is NRK Academy signing out. We will meet again in the next lesson. Thank you so much.